Well, here we are again, folks, and forgive me for getting carried away out of the Word, out of the Psalm, in that last Psalm, in Psalm 10. I got carried away with some of the things that happened to me in life. And I can understand how David felt like he did, and how he was beat down by this and that and everything, and how he felt it. But you know what my answer was? The same as David's. He came to the Lord and he said, Lord, how long? How long for you going to deliver me out of this problem? The Lord said, just hang on, hang on. There's 150 Psalms in here, and by the end of them, I will have delivered you from where you are. And our days are few and full of trouble, and that's a fact. They're few and full of trouble, and if we're not careful, that trouble will beat us down. So what we need to do is know that if we have any trouble, it's to try to correct us or to win somebody else to the Lord in that trouble. Now, I've had people come against me in my Christian life that I knew God allowed it so that I could win them to the Lord. And I've won people to the Lord that came against me. And afterwards, they became brothers in the Lord. And all that other stuff was bygones. It was gone. So, let's look at Psalm 11, a Psalm of David. And it's talking about the Lord, our faithful defender. He is our defender. You've got to put your trust in Him. And you've got to live close enough to Him so that when you need the defense, He can give it to you. In the Lord put I my trust. How say ye to my soul, flee as a bird to your own mountain? See, even though there is no sure way of knowing, this psalm was probably written when Saul was constantly threatening David with death. To the Lord alone could David look. He couldn't look anywhere else but to the Lord. See, Saul even wanted to kill his own son Jonathan. Saul was so infuriated with jealousy over David that he was willing to kill his own family to get to David. And so he was furious. And for lo, the wicked bend their bow. They make ready their arrows upon the string, that they may privately shoot at the upright in heart. See, what David could see here was it wasn't just David they were after God's people. They were after people that followed God to the fullest. And Saul, by the way, was supposed to be God's man, God's king. This possibly represents Saul in his effort to destroy David. Even more so, it represents the Antichrist. So we see a picture of how furious the Antichrist is going to be more and more in these days, more furious in these days, trying to destroy the people of God and destroy God. He makes every effort now, he's making every effort and more to destroy Israel. And even though he worked through Hitler to try to destroy and didn't do it, and he's not going to do it again. During that time of the Great Tribulation, in Jeremiah 30 and verse 7, we see the Antichrist at work. Now, verse 3, the foundation to be destroyed. What if the foundation be destroyed? What can the righteous do? The law wouldn't do it. If we tried to follow the law of God, it wouldn't do it. If we try to do the best of our ability to do it, that won't do it. We could say, well, I'm going to agree with the Antichrist. That won't do it. The only way you can do it is by the righteousness of Jesus Christ. That's the only remedy for you and I against the Antichrist. We've got to put all our trust in Jesus. Say, I'm a sinner, forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul. And He will. And then we can follow Him. And the Lord is in His holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, His eyelids try the children of men. What he's saying here is he is weighing our works. Are they durable works, or are they something we're doing in the flesh? And the Lord is looking at that, and he sees all. He sees both the good works and the bad works. Verse 5, the Lord tries the righteous, but the wicked and him who loves violence, his soul he hates. The faith of the righteous is going to be tested, and the great faith must be tested greatly. Wow. If you've got great faith, you're going to be tested greatly. I believe that I have been tested greatly and being tested greatly. I was talking with a man last night. He was talking about burying his father, and I said to him, in the last 6 years, I buried my father. My mother, my father, my mother, 2 brothers, a sister, and my wife. And in April. And so I would say that we're under testing. We're under testing. I can't allow that to shake my faith in the Lord at all. I can't let that. And I've said this before. If the devil has his way, and before I die he puts me in prison, I'll be a preacher in prison. We need preachers in prison. I used to preach in the prison. I preached in the prison. I started out preaching in the prison for 7 years. I preached in the prison. And it's a good place to preach. And many of those fellows in there got saved, and many of them will be in heaven that were in the prison that got saved. And that's a good place to preach. And if God wants me in the prison preaching, I'll be in the prison preaching. But preaching is what God called me to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'll do it until I die, no matter where I am. It says, upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire and brimstone, and the horrible tempest. This shall be a portion of their cup. That's going to be true in a general purpose, and generally, when the Antichrist comes, he's going to pour out a cup of wrath on this earth. And he's going to pour it out on his own as well as on God's people too. He's not going to just pour it on God's people. He's going to pour wrath on everybody, because he has no thing that he wants. Let's look at verse 7. For the righteous Lord loves righteousness. His countenance does behold the upright. What is that saying? If you have the righteousness of Jesus Christ on your life, you are one of the upright. It's a simple fact that through Christ you go to heaven. And only through Christ. The standard of God is His Son, Jesus Christ. You remember the standard of the serpent in the wilderness with the children of Israel? God said, make a serpent and put it up, a brass serpent on a pole. And all those that have been bitten, that means they've already been bitten, can look at that serpent and they'll live. Now, we got bitten by the great serpent, the devil, when we were born. But we can look upon Jesus Christ and the cross that He hung on and the forgiveness of sin that He gave us and say, Jesus, thank you for it. Forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul. And we can go to heaven. That's the standard. The cross of Christ is the standard that a Christian comes in by. So if you want to be saved, if you want to go to heaven and not die and live in hell forever with the devil, you must ask Jesus to forgive you of your sin, come in your heart and save your soul. My suggestion is, if you do that, find a Christian church to get into and start following the Lord. Well, that's the end of chapter 11. And we will go to chapter 12 in a minute. All right. And that's 9 minutes. All right.